All right. Hello and welcome to APPE's first live event. Yay. Andrew.
Four more good-looking men you couldn't possibly wish to have. and and we're all here. We know we're here. Kyle, do you want to say what we're doing here today, why we're here, what we've come to discuss?
Absolutely.
But you can
You know
stop
what?
reading if you want.
I have some sound going on the other
Shall I?
thing. I'm going to
Shall
turn
I?
off the
Shall I?
sound on the replay. There we go. Now I can hear.
Okay.
Yes. Basically, there have been a lot of concerns about the terms of use that has come up, and we just want to take an opportunity to represent the views of our members. We're not here to give Adobe a free ride. We are here to, hey, Andrew, you got someone coming in there? We are here to sort of like address some of the comments in the forum, and hopefully, address some of the fears and concerns. Some of them maybe overreaching. Some of them are as overreaching as some of the terms themselves originally. So, at the same time, we want to make sure that everybody gets a feel for, I guess, the definitions of the legal terms that Adobe have put in. And Andrew, what do you think?
So the reason we're here, obviously, is the TOU, the Terms of Use, and there's been a lot of discussion and rumour, a lot of people losing their shit over this because, and why wouldn't you? We're also editors, we're production companies, and we've all had issues or we thought we might have issues with the Terms of Use and the way it was announced. The quick catch up on this is, since that happened, as the admins of this group, we have been in almost constant contact with Adobe, and we've been representing the views, and a lot of them very forcefully, to Adobe on your behalf. And to be honest, my own opinion on this is they have actually reacted really well. They not just gave some really good explanations and cleaned up the terms and the terms of use, but they gave a lot of clarity that wasn't there before, and they've added in the new sort of simplified terms. So I think it's all working. I think they've done a good job. From my point of view, my clients and their legal departments, which include government and some very large global companies, they've all cleared it. So before we do that, though, you've heard from me blethering on, and we've now got John Knowles in. Why don't we do a quick round the room just to introduce everyone so you know who you're talking to and what they're doing here. So first of all, let's start with the wonderful Kez. Tell us about who you are, what you're doing here, what's the story?
Hey guys, my name's Kez Acolano. I'm a APPE moderator as well as a lead mod for the R Premiere subreddit and Discord server and Adobe Video. I'm also a editor with 16 plus years. I know all these fine gentlemen from over the years. Eric, probably one of the people I've known for almost 10, 12 years now. So happy to be here, and hopefully we could have a great discussion about the new terms of usage for everyone.
John.
So I had to unmute there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
We got you.
Hello. I'm John Knowles. I'm an editor in Los Angeles, and I'm also a Premiere Pro and After Effects instructor. And I've been on the Facebook group for quite a while. I was made a mod. Was it last year, Kyle?
Yeah. After all the great insight that you provide on the forum, but also after meeting you at Adobe Max, it was clear that we had to have you on board. You're awesome.
He sent us a crate of beer. That's what happened.
I did, and everyone said that I look like Andrew when he was younger, so that's how I got in.
You look thinner, definitely. Eric, tell us.
So hi, my name's Eric Addison. I've been editing with Premiere Pro since it was just Premiere back in the day. I started with, I think, 4.2 was my first, when the horse was the icon.
Wow.
That's how far back I go. I also run the San Diego Premiere Pro user group. I've been doing that since 2009. I should know how many years it is because I got married that same year. And if my wife was watching this, she'd kill me for not knowing how long we've been married. But yeah,
but she loves you for knowing it's 15 years, and you often mention that number to us.
15 years. That's right. I think I mentioned that in the pre-chat. So thank you, Andrew, for reminding me of that. So I've been using, and I also run 100 Acre Films, a production company here in San Diego where I live and work. And I'm at my office right now. We do mostly corporate stuff, commercial stuff, that kind of stuff. And we're all Adobe here. So
good. Kyle, tell us.
Hey, Kyle. So I've been shooting editing for 30 years, I guess, a long time. And, 10, 15 years ago, sort of adopted Adobe as a platform. Really, really enjoyed the fact that it was cross platform agnostic and Kodak agnostic. That was my key thing. About 10 years ago, Giacomo, who founded APPE, asked me to become a moderator, and then I became an admin. And we grew from, I think it was 6,000 or 8,000, and now it's almost 30. It got up to 16 with the help of a few people along the way, obviously, Arthur Bell and anyway. Bottom line is, APPE is awesome. It's a group where we try to focus on evidence-based workflow solutions, ideally looping in Adobe Premiere and Adobe software as a key part of the equation. But definitely most professionals on the group, use Resolve and have used Avid and other platforms. We're not shills for Adobe. We don't get paid by Adobe. We don't get sponsored by Adobe. But we do have the fortunate connection with some of the engineers and people at Adobe who to help us understand what the goals are. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this little event here, is so that we could hopefully share some of that insight that we've gained from them.
Okay.
Andrew.
And lastly, there's me. I'm the most attractive person here, obviously. I'm, as you may have guessed, I'm in the UK. I've got a production company. I've been doing video production, music production, audio, 3D, VR for years. We do all sorts of spectacular stuff. We have some significant clients, and we've been using Prem Pro now probably for about 8 years, 9 years, almost 10 years now. And I came to the group because I was after some support. I thought I was being stupid about a feature. Found the group and just kind of hung out because there were some really good people here who weren't jumping on me. I didn't see as many platform wars. I didn't see as much flaming going on here. And gradually, I think Kyle invited me to be an admin sometime later. Mm-hmm. And we've built up, the whole thing here is we've built the group up by making it, as Kyle says, evidence-based, solutions-focused, for professional editors using Prem Pro. And that's let us have a degree and a level of connection with Adobe that's probably unusual. They sit on our groups. They don't do that often, but they sit on our groups. They will comment. So we've got a really good relationship with them, which brings us to today, the terms of use thing. So the reason we're here is to discuss the what happened, where we are, what it actually means, what really all of this stuff means for you. We're production, we own production houses. We earn our livings from this, so it's important for us and for our clients. So we're here to discuss it, interpret it, answer any questions, put them in the chat, and we'll take it from there. So who would like to go first with this? He said, looking at Kyle.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay. So one of the things that's come up really is, I'm using the comments in our forum as sort of a guideline to help us address some of the more key salient points, right? Now, just before we show a video by Jason Levine, which is pretty short and sweet and blunt. It's great. It's pretty clear. I wanted to say that one of the things that I was concerned about was that Adobe would be, you know, mining information on my local computer. It's very
Yeah.
clear that they
Yeah.
don't. They are not, never have, never will, unless you actually give them permission to. And but they never. But basically, they can't break the law of privacy. So no matter how someone interprets the terms, and legalese is a language unto itself that's difficult to get through. I personally, I actually enjoy legalese. I'm a weird bird that way. I mean, I could see that the framework that the clauses were in made sure that they couldn't do what a lot of people were claiming that they were doing, which is stealing your content. Not happening. And
No.
really, there was one good question. Why did they change it? Why? Why would you change it? Why not go back to what it was before? The reality is that with the evolution of content creation in the advent of AI augmented workflow, terms of use have to change. The tools themselves, content aware fill, transcription, essential sounds, superpower of being able to get a voice and separate voice from background and recreate that voice so that we actually, if somebody didn't hire a proper sound person to record it, that it can be rescued. So all that stuff. So here's, I'm going to say one last thing. Here's another key point. If you're doing essential sounds, it's not going up to the Adobe server. Adobe is not looking at your stuff. If you're doing a lot of this work that I actually thought that would require server-side assistance, it's not. It's all done on local machine. I've had this confirmed multiple times by talking to Adobe reps. So, Andrew.
The other reason for the change is the world has evolved. The technological world and the digital world has evolved massively. We're all now working across multiple platforms and with multiple different vendors or providers. So we might be talking in any one day to, we're using Boris Effects. We might be doing stuff with Vimeo, with Frame.io. We might be using Lucid Link. We might be passing it out, file sharing with Dropbox, popping things onto YouTube. There's a million different ways we are coexisting in the world with other digital providers, and every single one of them has to have permission to use whatever we provide. And here's the thing, Adobe have now made it absolutely clear. You opt in when you say you're going to give permission for each of these things. Let's say I want to share something with YouTube. I provide a level of permission to Adobe to do that, not to distribute it to all their mates and friends and to give it to Netflix or whoever. It's to do that thing that I want. That's the permission. Share this with YouTube. And guess what? YouTube can't then do whatever they like. They can only take the permissions that we've granted to Adobe. That's the permissions they then inherit from Adobe. YouTube can't do anything else with it other than what we've agreed to. And the reason for that is the whole digital world and the way we're all connected now means there has to be that level of trust, because if there isn't, if someone breaks that chain just once, the whole thing falls apart. So that's kind of where they had to change the terms of use to reflect the way we use these tools now. That was the reason for the change. And they squonked it up. They squonked it up. And guess what? In all the conversations we've had with them, they have shown exceptional humility. This is our conversations with them. They've shown exceptional humility and goes, guys, we got it wrong. Badly wrong. That's what they said. We got it wrong, badly wrong. And it's taken them a week or so to fix it.
Well, I don't know if they said they've admitted that they mishandled the wording of it. But their intention was never wrong. I mean, and this is really what it comes down to. And I'd love to hear what other people say on this.
Yeah.
The reality is that if you're a person who doesn't trust the government, that doesn't trust big corporations, that's, rages against big pharmas, profiteering, if your tendency is that, then no matter what Adobe says, you're not going to trust them. Then there's other types of cats, like, myself, where I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll read through the terms. I'm going to talk to the people that work there that I trust and get a feel for what the intention is. And, personally, I'm okay with giving permission for certain things to be used in order for me to use the tools that I want to use. I mean, when I use my Apple Watch to track my health, it's a risk of my privacy, but it's something that I deem acceptable because I want to be able to use the tool to make my life easier, to be able to copy from my iPad to my laptop. I have to give permissions that I would think, when I read the terms, it's like, holy crow, that's pretty scary. So, I'll pass it on to someone else there.
And kind of like what you were saying with the comparison of, letting the Apple Watch or letting Apple and other corporations come in when you sign terms of agreement. It's like, I don't know if anyone's ever watched the last season of Black Mirror. There was an episode where when we signed to do the whole Netflix subscription, that they could turn your life into a TV show and just generate content with AI. So I think that's like one of those like big fears is like, oh, that's the future. The more all these corporations and all these code bros and whatnot create this technology that could alter the fabric of society, Black Mirror stops being a quote unquote satire and possibly becomes a documentary, like some of the things we've seen from, directors like Mike Judge, like with Office Space or Idiocracy and things like that. We don't want that future because, a lot of times when we are signing terms of agreement, when we're signing, all these types of things, it's like it's just buried in paragraphs and paragraphs of legalese. And unless you're someone who really wants to read that stuff, then, you'll kind of just be like, all right, just get me to the point where I can accept it, install it, and get the move on. But then, like, when we miss those small little details that are really relevant to our usage of said app, software, whatever, it's like, oh crap, what did I just do? What did I just sign away for? So I can definitely see that fear being realized.
What about Eric and John? You're both sort of involved in a lot of stuff here with tutorial or what are your different groups. What are your thoughts on this? Perhaps Eric, what about you?
It's interesting because I'm not an Apple user. I'm a Windows user, and I have like a Google Pixel, and I'm like fully in on the Google infrastructure. And there's a certain part of me that is just sort of like resign myself to the fact that I give so much information to Google to use for whatever purposes that they want. And the trade-off is I get free Gmail. I get a lot of cool stuff on my Pixel phone, a lot of cool features, whatever. And I never think to ask, how much am I giving them to use and stuff? But I understand people's frustrations and fears with this. And Kyle, I mean, you're right. I mean, Adobe's been pretty good about saying, hey, look, we screwed this up. I think their mistake was that they had lawyers who don't deal with creatives, write these terms of service that, I think were pretty much outdated, weren't very well spelled out. And listen, if I were the legal team of Adobe, well, they've got their hands full with another thing, right now, but I would not, I hope they're well paid. And I wonder how many of them, got talking tos about those terms of service. But I agree that I think this was my sense of this is as much ado about nothing. I understand people's fears, I understand their complaints, but if you read what they how the new terms of service, how they corrected themselves and the examples that they gave, they made it quite clear about what they do, what they don't do. And like you said, Kyle, if people are prone to be conspiracy theorists where they think that, we can't trust these big companies. You know what? I get that. I understand that. But that's a deal that you have to sort of kind of deal with on your own. And, look, Adobe can say, they can put out there all this information and say, hey, you know what? This is what we do. This is what we don't do. And you can either believe it or you don't. And you can, continue with them or not.
A question for you, Eric, as well. So you said about the lawyers had to draw this up, Adobe's lawyers. The thing is, you can only draw up terms of use like this when you have consulted widely with people who actually use it, because the use cases do not become apparent just in the text, right? And I think possibly there was a bit of a falling over there, but pretty much every corporation that's in this field at the moment is going through this right now.
Yep.
And yeah, the same with all of the stuff we're seeing at the moment. So
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
Can I add something there, Eric?
Yeah.
I got to say that I totally, commiserate that you're in the Windows platform. I feel for you. And no, I'm just so kidding.
Happily in the Windows platform, by the way.
It doesn't matter. One of the things that's really important is how is reading those terms and accepting it, like you said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people really need to read them, investigate them, talk to their own people, and then decide what they want to do. And I agree, Andrew. Yeah, I think, Adobe, the biggest mistake they made was not consulting, with creatives and finding things out. I mean, it's the same with their software. That's why they have the public betas now. You got to get that stuff out there, see how it responds in the real world with actual creative people and see what happens. And things are changing so fast that to try to stay on top of all this stuff, listen, I've been around Adobe long enough. I remember when they went subscription and the hate that came down on them for that. And I think a lot of that hate still exists, and people are just looking for anything that they can do to sort of, I have seen so many posts about, here's a list of apps you can use to get away from Adobe. And they list out all this stuff. And it's like, okay, look, if you want to go. I that's fine. And you free country, do what you want to do. But, I just think there's this, people were just looking for something, and this became such an easy target. And listen, the last thing I'll say is I don't think Adobe is a perfect company. There are things that I think they could do better, and that they should improve on. And so, I will always hold their feet to the fire when it needs to be done. And just in this particular instance, I just kind of sat back and thought, really, people? Because the amount of misinformation and I have a friend that's a writer that was talking about this and posting about this and getting so much stuff wrong. And a director on a film just sent me an email that I'm getting ready to start editing. She had a lot of this information wrong, and it was just like, wow, this is just like crazy spread. So yeah.
Can I just add that you hit the nail on the head about the mishandling. One of the main concerns, I think, was the terms that were used are legal terms used that we as video editors understand when we sell stock material or buy stock material. And so the words used that were supposed to mean for the words that were chosen by the legal team that are used for operation of the software are the same words that we know are about acquisition of digital rights management and IP. And that, to me, was the biggest misplay, that permission to use this for you to, when they say that they are making a duplicate in order to share from one system to another through the server, it still sounds like Adobe's the one that's doing it. But in fact, it's the operator that's making the duplicate to share between devices. And I still think it's a little bit ambiguous. Maybe the legal team has to have it that clear. I don't know. But
sorry, the really funny thing though, trying to describe all the subtleties of the terms of use and the way people use this stuff is a bit like me trying to describe pulse code modulation to my wife. She neither knows nor cares. And I'd have to teach her all about audio and digital and sampling and zeros and ones and all of that stuff and D to A's and A to D's. She doesn't care. Does it play? Yeah, that's fine. It's the same with this. Yet the only time you look at these things is when you think it affects you. So real quickly, the reason it blew up for us, all of us, but particularly for me, I've got a a global brand, really big, whose legal department got in touch with me at 1:30 in the morning a couple of weeks back and said, what's going on? Does this mean we have to stop using Prem Pro? And I said, no, why would you? And I had a look at what was being said. What I saw in all of the different chat rooms was Adobe are doing terrible things. When we took a day or so to just actually look at it, they said to me, if it is what everyone's saying, then we can't use them anymore, which means you've got to stop using Prem, which meant a whole bunch of work for us was disappearing. We had a look at it. They also had a look at it. Really big legal department, massive. They've come back and they said, we've got two observations. One is it seems that they're going to get this right. And the second is they would be, any company doing this in the digital realms has to be careful so that they don't essentially put something together, either an offering, an app, or terms of use, which means their audience disappears. Their users go not interested anymore and walk away. They have to maintain these. That's their income. It's their lifeblood. It's their lifeblood. So they couldn't see any reason why. They've actually been good about it. They've had a look. All of them have had a look at the amended terms of use, and all of my clients are now entirely happy that it does what it says it does. And for us, we never get into it. It's down to our security now, not anyone else's. It's not down to Adobe's. They're happy with the terms of use. John, what's
John,
your
I
thoughts
was
on
going to say,
it?
John, like you're out of LA and working, on some pretty big stuff. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about what Andrew's referring to about, NDAs with clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I first of all, I'm sorry you went through that, Andrew. I did not get those panic calls myself, but I'm in between those big corporate clients myself right now. So, in fact, my biggest client right now is Adobe, which is ironic, but that I can see how that would be a major concern. And I have many friends on our forum who are also here in LA with me, and I saw them chiming in with their concerns. So clearly, that cannot be understated. That was a huge issue. I will say it was, if you look back, for me, it was the trajectory of all this was very telling. This is a very modern, like you said, Black Mirror, Cass. Like, imagine a Black Mirror episode, which was just like, it was this, but it was also the audience reaction, which was insane. This is, are we like, we're not even 3 weeks into this whole fiasco, are we? Like, is it not even, it's not even a month for sure. And I think where this started, sort of ground zero, correct me if I'm wrong, was the film director Duncan Jones was working on a movie, and one of his artists couldn't use Photoshop because the terms of service came up, and it said you have to agree to this. And they actually finally read it, and then it took him tweeting about it for it to suddenly, enter the public consciousness. And the way these things work is it just sort of like it spreads like wildfire. When someone of prominence with a decent number of followers, tweets like that, and it just suddenly, like, it's everywhere. And there's people kind of primed for someone to be the villain, typically someone who already is not happy with Adobe for whatever reason. And that's fine. I mean, you're, like you said, it's a free country. You're allowed to dislike a company for whatever reason. But they're just primed and ready to go to see, see, I've been telling you all along. Everyone wants to be the person who's like, I told you, remember that was me like years ago. I told you they were evil. And they were just waiting for an opportunity. And it was sort of like this perfect storm, out here in California. It's like every summer, the tinder builds up in the forest, and there's just waiting for some idiot to throw a cigarette out the window, and then boom, it all goes up, and we're on fire. And it's that kind of thing. And it's very difficult once that kind of thing is happening for the people who have actually read the terms or understand what it is to be like, no, guys, wait, stop, calm down. It's not that bad. It just took on a life of its own. It's been very hard to kind of like beat back those flames. So that's kind of where we are. It's pretty crazy. But I will say, to Adobe's credit, like I said, it's been maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks since this all went down. I can't remember the last time I saw a company, a big tech company like this, pivot this quickly and go, you're right, we're sorry, we're going to rewrite this thing.
Absolutely.
Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Apple doing this? Apple would be like, oh, we'll take a look at that. We'll get back to you by WWDC 2025. Like, they would take a year and sit on this. So I all props to them, I will say, not to be an apologist for Adobe. I do think, yes, they tripped very hard at the beginning, and then they went very hard. They leaned the other way pretty quickly and said, let's get this taken care of fast. And they did.
And they did it with huge amounts of consultation. Huge amounts.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
I mean, I was trying to add it up. It's funny because I had written in one of the comments because I said, hey, you know, they're talking to 100,000 people, and actually, it may even be that number.
Yeah.
Certainly, tens of thousands. Because the reason why I was saying that, if you add it up, basically, they did, 1 hour windows across, for several days, around the world. And then all those people that were in those meetings were part of communities as well to share that information. So exponentially, they had a feedback loop of information from groups that was pretty significant. And Apple got it right though. They said Apple Intelligence, not AI. It's for you. And this is what I would say is the most critical thing for Adobe to address. Is Adobe needs to not just be on the defensive about, hey, listen, our terms of use are okay. Don't worry, we're not going to steal your stuff. It has to be more than that. It has to be, Adobe is protecting your IP. Adobe is your champion as a creator to make sure that if your artwork that you put onto Adobe Stock is used for AI or it's used for sale, that we are protecting your IP. And that we will make sure that you are compensated for the use of your assets. And there's a whole other issue that I've opened up there about the stock side. But if Adobe comes out saying that they are the champion of IP protection and encrypted and like the content authenticity initiative is a huge part of that. If that's the conversation, it leapfrogs this whole thing. That they're actually protecting your assets, not.
And I think the sense of pretty much all of us is that they, over the last 2 years, the teams there have really dug in to the communities, to all of us, to all the people that are using it. They've built communities out. We've built our own. I mean, this community, our little group here of 29,000 plus professional editors, we have sort of 14 or 15,000 of you interact with the group every month. So we know that this is an interesting subject. We know people care about this stuff. And they've reached out to us, and they've done this with other groups all over the world in all sorts of different areas. So they have really paid attention. And they, on the whole, my impression, and I come from a support and a dev background as well, is they're actually really doing a great job on this. Yeah, they dropped the ball with this. Terms and conditions. Talking of which, do you think, Carl, you would like to have that video ready if people haven't seen it? Do you think we should watch perhaps Jason's one?
Jason's? Yeah, I can bring up Jason's.
And to probably add to the overall conversation, the grand scheme of things, I think one of the other reasons that we're obviously not talking about when it comes to Adobe, the company, is that once that tweet did go out, I can only imagine how many shareholders were upset and how much this probably affected the stock price. So it's like, obviously the big elephant in the room is, Adobe is a publicly traded company. We can't ignore that. And when you're a publicly traded company, you are beholden to the shareholders. So with all this press and bad press going out, and then you have the directors, you have the Alton Browns, you have all these people just making a lot of noise. Like, we can't underestimate the power of social media and how it could affect the stock price in the grand scheme of things.
I think the stock price went up. I saw a post about it. I think it went up $50 in the week.
I posted about this on Reddit, and I took a snapshot of the stock price over the course of the week. And when
can you share that, John?
Let me see if I can find it. So when this scandal happened, calling it a scandal, I don't know what we're calling it, but when it happened, the stock price was sort of on its way up. Yeah, and there was barely a blip when it broke. And then when we got to the end of last week, and maybe it was the news that they were going to do something about the terms of service, I'm not sure, the stock price went really high, way up. And then there was a minor blip this Monday, because that's when the DOJ dropped their lawsuit, but it was very minor. And by Tuesday, they were back up again, and then stock markets weren't open yesterday. So I mean, just looking at it from a stock price perspective, it's really interesting. I don't think we'll know the true fallout from this because the stock price seems to be unaffected. The true fallout will be when they announce the Q3 results for earnings. If a bunch of people actually did cancel their memberships over this.
What I suggest we do, I can run this from here. It will mute us all. It's a 3-minute long video. It's 3 minutes and 1 second. I could do with refilling my glass anyway. Shall I play this and we'll just have this running, if this is running over the top of us, and then we can come back and discuss it. So it's 3 minutes.
This is Jason Levine's. You're going to play Jason's?
Yeah, I'm going to play Jason's. Yeah?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Hello everyone, Jason Levine from Adobe here. So if you're in the community, you probably heard or have heard from someone else that we made some changes recently to our Terms of Use. Well, today we've posted a new version of the Terms of Use document, and I thought I would take a moment to just provide a little clarity on some very specific sections that I think would be relevant to you. So first, let's just talk about a couple of things that actually haven't changed. 1. Adobe does not own your data or claim to own it. That's it. 2. We don't train generative AI models on your data. 3, we only have very limited rights to actually access your data. And just for a little additional clarity, whenever we're talking about access or permissions, it's only for 2 cases: to operate the software and to improve the software. That's it. Okay, so there's a really specific section that gives a bunch of terms that anyone in video or audio or really any design industry is going to be familiar with. And this is, well, these are the terms where sometimes it can be a little confusing. So I'm going to go through them and provide examples of exactly what it means. And I'm actually going to read these examples so that these are super clear. So this is in section 4.3, licenses to your Creative Cloud content. The first one is to reproduce. Scary, but it isn't actually. Here's what it means. For example, to create copies of your cloud content on our servers, in order to allow you to upload your cloud content to our servers, to allow you to copy and paste your cloud content between multiple Adobe Express projects, or to make copies of your Creative Cloud libraries, we have to reproduce the content. You're giving us the license to say, I need to copy this from Express to somewhere else. That's what reproduce means in this instance. And just to be super clear, these licenses are only to operate the apps and services, as mentioned in section 4.3. 2, distribute. For example, to publish your work under your direction to third-party platforms or services, to share cloud content under your direction through our services to your friends, family, and colleagues, or to allow these authorized people to download your cloud content with your permission. So again, maybe you're in Premiere and you want to direct destination publish to YouTube. You're allowing us to distribute that content to some other place that you choose, that you log into. We're not distributing it arbitrarily. It's just this connection that allows for that to happen. And just to emphasize here, this is always in your control. 3, create derivative works. Now, this is something which in the music business, I was very intimately aware of. And yeah, this one on its face can sound a little scary, but it isn't. Here's what it actually means. For example, to compress an image to use as a thumbnail, or to remove an image background at your direction, or to translate the cloud content into another language. For instance, in Adobe Express, we have the instant translate feature. I make this amazing poster in English. I want to translate it to French. We need to allow Express to make a derivative version in another language of your choosing. The application needs to be able to do that. You're giving the license to be able to do that particular task. That's it. So I provided some links down below for more information. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. See you next time.
And there
Love
it
that,
is.
love that guy.
I put the link in the comments, this link. So anybody that needs to watch that again, he's pretty quick. There you go. I've also put a link into the official Adobe Video Legal Department response, which could you imagine being there working that? Holy, my
Earn
heart
their pay.
is like, oh yeah. Anyway, great response.
I just say the thing about the Jason video that I think is great is that it really hits home and helps people understand. You know, I think most people just think, okay, I'm going to turn on my Photoshop, Premiere, whatever. I'm going to start editing, and they don't think about all the stuff that's going on, like what they're, you know, all those permissions that he talks about, being able to upload stuff somewhere or just use the footage, have access to these things. It's like people just don't understand that, yeah, you've got to have those permissions in there to allow that. And I get that they can be read kind of ambiguously or wider reaching, you know, if you want to go that way. But It's like that. I think Jason did such a great job at really distilling down, like, okay, look, this is why we say these things, and here's why it makes the software work and why you need to have them here.
I think the interesting thing, the wording that's been missed by most people interpreting this as a malicious something is, I'm just looking now at the terms and conditions. I could share that here actually, if you want, just so we can point this out. This is.
Hey, just want to, while we're looking that up, I just want to say that Jason responded because I asked for permission to use that video, and he did give permission. He said, "Hey, nice to see you again. Thanks for the comment, and yes, by all means, feel free to play this video. Any additional clarity we can bring to the communities is awesome." So Jason did give official permission to use that video in our stream.
So here, I'm just going to draw your attention. I might just blow this up a little so you can see. So this is 4.3 we're going to look at. And the wording that I think people have missed, which is really important. So let's we can come back. If someone wants us to go back into an earlier section, do. But here you can see we have these are all defined now: to reproduce, to distribute, create derivative works, publicly display, publicly perform, and sublicense. And with each of these, let's just have a look at distribute. For example, to publish your work, and these are the words that matter, under your direction, to third-party platforms or services, under your direction. They do not distribute without your direction. They have averred absolutely, they have made it very, very clear that Adobe do not own your work. They do not and will not ever own your work. The work
or sub-license it. So slow down.
They can't because
or sub-license. Go back to that part.
All right, so we'll go down to sub-license. Let's have a look at this.
Yeah, you had it up just a second ago. This is really, I think, really important. We will not and cannot grant a sub-license to a third party, right? I mean, and this is what people are rightfully so concerned about, and it's because of the words used are what we use for IP transfer, or granting the rights to use assets, from one project for a project from a vendor. And that's why I think it was so scary and concerning. And I think that what they wrote originally definitely, allowed
there
them
was
to
some
do that.
ambiguity. The world has changed. There was some ambiguity. The other thing which is really important is Adobe have again stated, it's in here somewhere, I'll try and find it, but I will tell you, they have said they never actually, they never look at the data on your local system. They do not use that data. They cannot interrogate it. They cannot see it. Yeah. They will get data about how you're using things, when you switch on, how long it's taking to do certain things. But they do not see or use or have access to your content on your local drives. That was
now,
a biggie.
A clarification on that, though. You can give them permission, like you can with every single app out there, to use data, not necessarily the assets, right? But use how the app is being used in order for them to improve the operational efficacy of the application. So, if someone's using content aware fill and it's not doing a good job, and the person keeps on trying to redo something, maybe that might be something that where it could be flagged for the engineering team, say, hey, this is, or it crashes a number of times. Those are the kind of things that you have to give permission to. You actually that you either help software improve or you don't give permission to it.
And I think the point here is that without your permission, they're legally not able to view, use, do anything with your content that you haven't granted permission for.
The content itself.
The content itself. So
this is the key one here.
Go on.
I asked an Adobe rep. I'm not gonna. I forget which one. It was on one of our various calls that they sponsored, and I put in the chat. I said, trying to clarify this. Can you come down to our computers from the cloud and look at stuff? Is that what the terms of service had said? And it was very interesting. And the Adobe rep said, don't you think if I had the power to go into your hard drive and look at your files and your project files, that if I could do that, why would I then ask? Why would all of our troubleshooting steps be to ask you for your specifications, the types of codec you're like? If they had that power anyway, they would not have to ask any tech support questions. They would just have it, and they'd be able to just open up your project file and go, "Oh, I see the issue." You know what I mean?
And
They weren't
actually,
in our computers to begin with.
Right.
That's a really good point, because
That's a great point, John.
the really funny thing about this, I'm just going to pull this down for a moment.
Before you get rid of that, I want to just hit this really important part.
Go on. Which
The
one?
only time that Adobe is required by law to scan an asset is when it's uploaded to their server, and there's a legal requirement that all cloud servers cloud server companies have to do, and that is, and this is what I'm if I get this correct, I believe it is. They'll randomly take 30 images or something, 30 is the number that I remember from the conversation. And they have to do this, and they'll scan it for, potential child abuse and so this is the law that they have to abide by. And then if it's detected that there's something in it, then a human will look at it to confirm that it is actually an image that has of child abuse. Now, I'm still on the fence about this permission thing, but the bottom line is that that's not Adobe as a company going out of their way to look at assets. It's them adhering to a legal scenario where they're, the effort is to protect children. So, it's not them as a company going and looking at all your assets, and they can't do it.
Okay, I'm just going to take this down for a minute so we can bring this up. I just wanted to. The other thing which I think we can have a quick chat about, which I know it's blowing up. So you mentioned earlier, John, the DOJ thing which happened earlier this week. So Adobe are the DOJ are looking at Adobe at the moment about their subscription, about the way they handle subscriptions. There are views on this on both sides of these things. I think it would be worth just going through it quickly, but essentially, when you sign up for a subscription with Adobe, you sign up for a whole year. It's a year's contract. You get a monthly price for that. Now, if you look on any other sites, you can sign up and commit for a year, and it costs you, let's say it's $50. If you want to do it monthly, it's going to cost you $150 or $100. It's going to cost you twice as much because they have no guarantee of a revenue stream. So it's kind of, they've got, I think the big problem at the moment is now some people want to cancel. This is coming about. Some people want to cancel, and they're being told, right, well, there's a penalty now because you signed up to this at a price and you've used it for a bit, and now you want to cancel. You've now got to pay us some sort of a balance on that. Now, it's in the terms and conditions when you sign up for it. And guess what? It's a cost of business for me. I know it's, some people want to get out of it and say, look, yeah, but it's not fair. You signed the deal. You
It's
can
more than
actually,
that, though, Andrew. It's that they get a rate based upon a term of a year. And so,
Yeah.
you can't get the price for a 12-month subscription the same price as for 8 months. It's basically that, right? I mean, it's with car leases, it's with everything. I think that the sticky point, though, is how difficult it is to cancel. But it actually really isn't. All you do is,
Kyle,
yeah.
It's I've heard from so many users who this is one point where I'll push back and I'll be the guy that's
do.
Yeah,
because
good.
I had a conversation with somebody the other night, and she's actually going to write down her experience. And I said, please send this to me because I will pass this on to Adobe. I have heard this over the years from so many people that trying to get out of either Creative Cloud subscription or your Adobe stock subscription is a nightmare. It is not an easy process. It's very confusing, and users have had problems with it. I've mentioned it before to a couple people at Adobe, like, hey, I hear this from a lot of people. It's something you guys might want to look at. And, I think they have just not, look, nobody wants to lose customers, and on a company on the scale that they have, I understand, that they, they don't, I understand like they can't give money, because I've quit subscriptions, and the company has said, okay, look, well, you paid for a year, you only used 8 months, so we're going to refund and give you a little bit back and sort of prorate your subscription. I understand why Adobe wouldn't want to do that on the scale that they're working, but the process that they make you go through, and a lot of the things you have to kind of go down into and click this and click that and try to find it. It seems like from what I've been told by users, it is not easy. And
I've seen the same thing, but I have a question for you. Why can't you just cancel the vendor from your credit card? It's really that, to me, that's how simple it would be. And Adobe, it basically, if they're not, if the transfer of funds from your credit card is stopped, it's canceled. Right? That's how it I don't know. That's where I say it should be easy. I don't know. I haven't tried to do it myself, but what?
I think you still owe them the money. I think you're still going to.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But here's the thing. I think Eric's hit on something here. I think a lot of people kind of, this is a bit like the thing we've been talking about with the terms of use. The problem is not that you want to cancel, cash in your subscription or whatever. The problem is that when you try to do something like this and it becomes really difficult, you feel like you're being scammed. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're being scammed, that they don't want you to leave and they will do anything to make it as hard as possible, so you have to jump through hurdles. And all you really want to do is go, I just want to stop now. Thank you. Finish. Just finish.
And I've somewhat seen some of that with like signing up for an Amazon Prime membership, and how they will literally use every psychological trick they can to keep you thinking like, well, why don't you just sign up for a Prime thing? You can get free. I'm like, dude, I just want to pause it for right now. I like it, but I may not want that expense on my thing. It's like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, if we're gonna, and I'm not trying to be defending of Adobe, because I'm pretty sure I've heard the same stories Eric, John, and everyone else has. I'm like, we're gonna have to come after every single person who does that, because I don't know how it is to sign up for Spotify and try to cancel that, or Apple Music, but it's like, everyone would need to be held to that same standard if we come at them the same way. It's like, so every subscription, regardless of whether you want to stop it after a few months or you want to stop it right away, it's like, you also need to understand what you're signing up for. And as much as I don't want to use something like ChatGPT to explain the legalese all the time, because then that's a whole nother bucket of worms that we're getting into when we start doing that. It's like, it shouldn't be difficult for a customer to be like, all right, I understand what I signed up for. How do I cancel this without this becoming so much of a hassle that I need to start, firing off cannons on social media to let people know that your company's full of shit?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they need another Jason Levine. I mean, he wouldn't be the guy, but they need a Jason Levine video just for the terms and services of signing up for a subscription and how to cancel it. And there is, I think, at some point you have to meet the public halfway to where they're at. And I think I will say this, we are a very knowledgeable and talented bunch of people on this call here, and there's a bunch of us in our group as well. I don't hear the subscription issues in our Facebook group because we've all been doing this for long enough, and it's our bread and butter. So we just hit renew every year and don't think twice about it. We don't see the issues that other people are having. But we used
to get a lot of traffic about subscriptions, but we went through that and said, look, if you don't want it, don't subscribe. It's the cost of business. It's a cost.
Right.
Of
There's always
business.
going to be the rants, yes, but it is the cost of business. And someone just, I think we just posted that comment. If you make a good amount every month, you're covered. Like it should be built into your business model. But
or tax write-off.
Exactly. There are a lot of young people coming into the ecosystem. They're just getting out of college. And I see this a lot too. And I'm sure you see it, Cass, all the time on Reddit, especially, their university discount is gone. And they're like, I'm just signing up for the first time. What do I do? And they get really, really confused. They see one price and they think, aha, that's really reasonable. Why would I pay that higher price for the monthly? And they don't realize that it's a year contract and what that means to get out of it. And I think that the heart of the DOJ thing is that it just needs to be much simpler. It can't be on page 2. It has to be right there underneath page 1.
Sorry, the curious thing there, John, is for a lot of people coming out of college uni now, what they do know is if they've bought the latest, smartest, wonderfulest smartphone, which they're not going to pay cash for. They're probably going to do a contract with one of the providers. That's going to tie them in for 2 years, which is 2 years. You can renew after a year, but then it ties you in for another. They know about that. They're already used to that, and they're paying probably about the same for their big, smart, flashy, whatever it is, as they are for their Adobe CC license. So it's not like people don't have models. It's not like this is an exception. This is what it is, but they could certainly, as you say, meet halfway with users to make this a simple approach. It would just make them look better. It would make them look more human and caring.
That's the thing. Yeah,
that's it.
They've already done that with this terms of service thing about the software. Now let's do that about the subscription. And sometimes Adobe can feel like it's two different companies, because we all deal with the creative folks and the people who are dealing with the community, and they're all really nice and they're very straightforward. And then you just hear horror stories about sort of the business model side of it, where it's just the people who are pushing the subscriptions and how making it difficult to cancel. And I will say, like, a service like Adobe should be easier to cancel than my cable, right? Because that's like, cable companies have always been notorious for that. They have whole departments set up for people to keep people in as long as possible. They will offer you discounts, and meanwhile, I can turn off Hulu and Netflix with a touch of a button, and no one squawks. Like, it should.
And look at those models too. Like with the other day, I wanted to Crave because I wanted to watch we wanted to catch up on we wanted to watch Dune, right? And so we canceled Crave, re-enabled Crave. All of our information was readily accessible based upon the email login that I had, and it got renewed. So Adobe has an opportunity here. One is with regards to being a champion of IP protection for people, and they also have an opportunity here to just say to preempt this judicial inquiry by making it easy for us to transition in and out of having a license to use the Adobe products. One of the things that I think is really important is that there are artists, there are nonprofit organizations, there are organizations that really count $50 a month as something that's too much, particularly artists, right? Like dancers who want to just create. There needs to be something outside of a teacher's, an education license and a professional license. There needs to be an artist's license that allows those who can really use that $50 somewhere, that and to be able to come in and out of it, right? So when you're coming to a job.
Are you saying that, like, maybe it's time for them to entertain the whole a la carte thing that some of us have been talking about for like the last 12 years? I know some of our peers have mentioned that, but then it's like the whole, like, what happens when I need to use Illustrator and I only paid for After Effects and Premiere? What happens when I barely use Photoshop, but then all of a sudden
there's an argument there to use it to, like, say you've got a project that you come back to, the client calls you and you haven't been paid using Adobe. Well, maybe it's a per use thing too, right? Like per launch. I don't know if that's even possible, but I do know that it should be easier to come in and out when you need it and not have to pay a full year. But the price should definitely be higher for a 1 month sub than a year amortized sub.
I believe I think there is that you do have an option to do a month by month thing with Adobe, or you used to.
Yes,
it's very expensive.
I was always
but you can.
Yeah, it's a whole psychological trick of making the month by month more expensive than the year one, because it'll draw more people in. So a lot of businesses use that technique. And
that's the way all these things go. Book a hotel room for a night, it's going to cost you however much. Book it for a week, the nightly rate will drop down, etc., etc. This is how it goes. But listen, guys, we're rapidly approaching the hour we set for doing this. I think we could carry on talking for ages, but this has been good to talk about. We haven't had that many people viewing, but I'm sure people will view it on catch up on YouTube. We can provide the link. What I think it would be really good to do is just quickly go around the room and get a summary from each of you about where you think we are, particularly with the TOU, with the terms of use. And
we a thumbs up or thumbs down.
So let's
try to do it 30 seconds a pop.
Kez.
I think the legalese is a lot better than it was before. Things have cleared up, and hopefully it makes more sense to the initiated and the uninitiated, and hopefully this can bring about some goodwill, regardless of the people who rage against the machine on this.
John.
I think a lot of the big shouting and screaming is going to be dying down. I think anyone who no longer wanted to use Adobe is just out, and we're just going to keep on with business as usual. And I think that I think it's been more smoke and fury than actual numbers here.
Do you approve?
Approve of what?
The updated
The new
TOU.
TO.
Oh, sorry. Yes. No. Click yes. Accept.
Lovely. Eric.
Yes, I approve. I think they did a good job. I think, like John said, and I said earlier, I think it was much ado about nothing. But, and I think that they did an excellent job at course correcting here, getting the word out, and fixing this PR disaster before it got too crazy. But listen, haters going to hate, and people are going to be pissed, and they're going to leave. And you know what? I wish they wouldn't, but you know what? That's up to them.
So I'm going to jump in next, and then
Yep.
Carl's going to finish it off. So
Super.
for me, my clients are now happy. If my clients are happy and they know this stuff, I'm happy. And looking at it all, I think Adobe spun this around. They pivoted this so fast. So I'm a very happy bunny right now, but I understand that some aren't. Kyle, over to you, mate.
A happy and a handsome bunny. I'm pretty happy with the terms of use. I still feel that there's room for improvement. I don't think that the same language for IP acquisition should be used for internal use of assets within the operation of the program. I think they could have solved a whole whack of problems in the communities if they had used different language. But I believe their intent is good, and that's the difference. I also think that we didn't get into the topic of stock, the license for stock being used for training AI.
Next
which
show
is maybe next show. That to me is I'm not too happy about. I don't have stock, but that's okay.
So let's talk. Let's book that. Let's put that into the next show. I think
But overall, I am very happy, and I'm really impressed with how Adobe pivoted and listened. And despite what people think, Adobe's people have made a really solid effort to reach out and get information in order to make changes.
Cool. And that, ladies and germs, is the show. I think we are looking to do this. Are we going to do this every week, Carl? Do you think every Thursday?
We'd like to do it every week. Definitely at least once a month, maybe bi-monthly. APPE members, please tell us what you want. We'll do it because we love you.
Yeah, and we'll probably do this same time next week just to cover off sweep up all of this and get reaction back once people have had a look at this. But thank you all 8 or 11 of you for watching. But for all of those that are watching you later, what kept you? And where's the cake? Right, we're going to end the stream. Are you ready, gentlemen?
Yeah. Okay.
3, adieu.
Cheers, guys.
And thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Appreciate it.
Bye.